Well, Season 5 of MLP has come to a close, and boy, what a season it was. Was it better than Season 4? Well, that's kind of hard to say. Well, I do think the best episodes of Season 4 were better than the best episodes of Season 5, although only by a little bit. Season 5 was of a more consistent quality. In fact, there were no episodes that I disliked. Sure, there were some that had their problems, like Tanks for the Memories turned Rainbow into a psycho, and What About Discord had a really boring second act, but even they still had some good comedy and sweet moments. And besides that, the good episodes were really good. In fact, if I did my top 20 episodes now, at least 6 from this season would be on there. So, let's talk about them. These are my top 10 favorite episodes of Friendship is Magic Season 5. Oh, and I'm not holding back on spoilers. Number 10. Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep? This was the last episode before the show went on a 2-month break, so it had to do something really big, and boy did it deliver. Outside of the endless amount of creativity with the dream sequences, it also has an action climax that rivals Twilight's Kingdom, featuring some of the most blatant fan service I've ever seen, and by God, I loved every minute of it. Cat dog references. There's plenty of funny moments, especially in Rainbow and Pinky's dreams, and it confirms Luna is best princess. She's the most flawed and thus the most interesting. Also, speaking as someone who often can't stop blaming himself for his past mistakes, this moral really hits home for me. The animation is great, the references are great, and it's just nice to see a Scott Sonnenborn solo episode that didn't have a completely screwed up moral. Remember, this is the same guy who said it was okay to be a hoarder. Amazing how he went from the worst writer of Season 4 to maybe not being one of the best, but certainly a good one. Let's hope Neil Dussadow can pull off the same trick in Season 6.
I can see the Tantabus has already turned your slumbers into a nightmare. What are you talking about? This is my favorite drink.
Number 9. Bloom and Gloom. The best way to describe this episode is unpredictable. True, at the beginning it's quite obvious that Apple Bloom is in a dream. I mean, I called it pretty quickly. It's all a dream. But even after that, the episode keeps you guessing on what's happening. Is she still in a dream? Has she woken up? What will happen next? Who's causing all this? What is going on? So she was having a dream inside a church. Josh Haber, you're fucking with my mind. And by the end, it all makes sense. I love the dream sequences in this. Hearing Big Mac's voice come out of Applejack's mouth just makes me laugh every time. And there's little touches in the animation that you may not notice on the first viewing, such as the fact that in each dream, there is something different for breakfast, or at some points Applejack isn't wearing her hat. I love little touches like that. Also, this episode aired at a perfect time. It was just a couple of weeks before I graduated college, so its message about not worrying about the future couldn't have come at a better time. Josh Haber went from being not a bad writer, but a writer who just sort of went through the motions, and with this episode became one of my favorites. And this is not the last time we will see him on this list.
There ain't no call to worry, so don't you cry or fret. A cutie mark won't change you, no matter what you get.
Number 8. Castle Sweet Castle. This episode is just plain fun. It has a lot of laughs, a lot of heart, and a lot of charm. Of all the new writers this season, Joanna Lewis and Christine Sonko were my favorites. They have a perfect mix of comedy, emotion, and morals. The song, while not one of the best in the series, is still pretty catchy and does do a good job of continuing the story. The ending is perfect, and a great way for not just Twilight to move on after the library was destroyed, but for all the fans who signed that petition asking for them to bring it back. Guys, please don't give the haters more ammo. Trust me on this. I've heard some complain about the group not knowing what Twilight would want and only thinking of themselves, which, yeah, I guess is sort of a flaw, but everything else is so good that I didn't notice it the first time. Also, they learned their lesson pretty quickly, so I'm willing to overlook it. And really, that's about it. It just does what it wants to do extremely well. It's funny, it's likable, and it just leaves you with a good feeling at the end. And to me, that's what a Friendship is Magic episode should be. Number 7. Hearthbreakers. What can I say, I'm a sucker for Christmas themed episodes. And while Hearthwarming Eve was more of a world building episode, Hearthbreakers is the one I want to sit down and watch every single Christmas. Not to say it doesn't have any world building as well, but this is more focused on telling a Christmas themed story. It's similar to the Ed, Edd n Eddy episode Jingle Jingle Jangle, in that it shows that while some may celebrate the same holiday, that doesn't mean they celebrate it in the same way. Some people go all out, decorating their house, having parties, while others just want to relax, and that's okay. The apples and the pies learn that, and in the end, learn to compromise. And compromise is one of those things that you should do all the time, but especially during the holidays. I love the Pie family, especially Limestone. Her tough, no-nonsense attitude led to a lot of good jokes.
You go, Maud. She's got the big one. She needs the big one.
Speaking of jokes, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles reference, because why not? Seeing everyone contrast off each other is a lot of fun, and of course, Maud. Just put her in an episode and it just seems to write itself. Also, Big Mac and Marble Pie are just plain adorable. Personally, I think they had more chemistry than Big Mac and Cheerilee, but I'm probably in the minority there. Great laughs, great moral, and great interactions make a really great holiday episode.
As every pony knows.
Stay off Holder's boulder!
Sheesh.
Number 6. The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone. My favorite of the map episodes. Sometimes just taking two characters and putting them in a situation where they have to work together can create a great episode. Rainbow and Pinky together create a lot of laughs, but let's be honest, the one who steals the show is Gilda. I have been waiting for her to be reformed for years.
We don't have a king. Losers. Hello, Gilda.
Ever since Griffin the Brush-Off, I've been thinking, so Trixie and Discord can be reformed, two characters who nearly destroyed Equestria, and Gilda can't just because she was mean? What sense does that make? Seeing the home of the Griffins at first was a bit of a disappointment, but as the episode went on, it made sense for it to look like that. Also, the art direction during the backstory sequence was really good and conveyed more fear than if they had just showed it in regular animation. Also, the ending references The Last Crusade. I love The Last Crusade, and thus I love this episode. It's got great world building, a nice dynamic between Pinky and Rainbow, and a much needed reformation for Gilda. What's not to like?
And we all lived miserably ever after. The end!
That was the saddest story ever.
Number 5. The Main Attraction. One of the few episodes I didn't do a video on, and it also happens to be the last episode that Amy Keating Rogers wrote. And what a great note to go out on. Everything about this episode just worked for me. I loved Ra-Ra, I loved the villain and just how much of an unapologetic dick he was. I loved Applejack, and I loved the songs. Yes, even Spectacle, the one that was supposed to parody all the soulless pop trash on the radio. But you know what? I like a lot of that soulless pop trash on the radio, but Equestria, the Land I Love, was my favorite. It had a great tune and the singing was beautiful. Also, Pinky is hilarious in her attempts to please Ra-Ra's manager, and the ending gets the message right in the way that Hannah Montana the movie got it all wrong. It's funny, it's cute, the ending left me with a huge smile on my face. Amy, I'm gonna miss you, and I hope you have a great future ahead of you at Disney. Thank you. Thank you for all of these wonderful episodes.
They say true friendship never ends. Equestria, my home.
Number 4. The Cutie Remark. What can I say? I love time travel stories, and while this episode has the typical problems of time travel plots, it also has all the merits of time travel plots. It may not have the epic feel of Twilight's Kingdom or even Canterlot Wedding, but I love seeing how messed up the world can get just because of one little change. Basically, it's like a mix of Back to the Future, Groundhog Day, and Run Lola Run, 3 great movies. Starlight Glimmer is a threatening villain who I just wanted to see get her comeuppance.
Couldn't convince her to do the impossible? That's too bad.
Every time I see her, I just get so tense with hatred. But her being reformed was nice too. Seeing the main 6 as fillies is always cute, and I just love the fact that the fate of Equestria hinged on these two being assholes. Think about it, if they weren't mean to Fluttershy, then Rainbow wouldn't have raced them, and thus she wouldn't have done the Sonic Rainboom. Forget friendship, the true magic is douchebaggery. One more thing though, Twilight, I don't think this would even get into the top 10 of the strangest things that have ever happened to you. Top 15 maybe, but certainly not number 1.
Why else would I leave the scroll behind? Touching it triggered the map to whisk you here and watch me erase the one thing that linked you with your friends.
Number 3. Amending Fences. The way to describe this episode is emotional. It's a very emotional episode, and it's also a great what-if scenario. Moondancer shows what Twilight could have become had she not made friends with the others. Granted, a lot worse stuff could have happened, but let's focus on one thing at a time. But it also shows the downside of her leaving Canterlot. She's not only forgot about her original friends, but one of them became an antisocial shut-in when she left. And it does make you think about all the friends you had to leave behind to move on to bigger and better things. And I can relate to this. I haven't seen or really even talked to most of my high school friends after I left for college, and now most of them aren't even in my hometown anymore. Yeah, we have Facebook and Skype, but it's not the same. The ending of this episode is fantastic. It had me just on the verge of tears, and the last shot left me with a huge smile on my face. Also, some of the animation in this episode is pretty cool. A great episode, and another reason Emmy Larson is a pretty awesome writer.
Those three finally convinced me that I had value. The other ponies might like me and want to be my friend. And you didn't show up! Ah!
Number 2. Crusaders of the Lost Mark. Well, it finally happened. 5 years to the day of the show's premiere, the Cutie Mark Crusaders finally got their cutie marks, and I could not have been happier when it happened. This episode is a lot like Magical Mystery Cure. It completely changes the status quo, something a lot of shows, especially kids shows, don't do that often. It's a musical, and a damn good one at that, and it also may seem a bit rushed on the first viewing, but in a way, that gives it even more rewatch value. It also is never boring. The whole time I was invested, having a great time, and by the end, I almost cried. Tears were starting to form. I also liked every song. While not every song was great, like in Pinkie Pride, I did enjoy all of them, and I can listen to We'll Make Our Mark 1,000 times and still sing along. And did I mention that the CMC got their cutie marks? Not only does it fit with what they have been building up with, but it can lead to a lot of great new stories in the future. And also, Diamond Tiara gets redeemed. I cannot think of a better way for this show to celebrate its 5th anniversary, but it makes me wonder, what will they do if they get to their 10th? Before we get to number 1, I figure we take a look at some honorable mentions since this season had quite a few really good episodes that couldn't make the list. Canterlot Boutique. A pretty good return after a 2-month break. Sassy Saddles is an interesting antagonist, Rarity is fun, and the song has some of the most amazing music I've heard on this show. Made in Manhattan. A pretty funny episode with an amazing ending. Also, having Coco Pamel is always a plus. The Hooffields and the McColts. Yeah, the characters are redneck stereotypes and it's a pretty obvious moral, but I laughed a lot watching this one. Also, it's The Great Divide done right. Scaremaster. Like Hearthbreakers, this one does a good job of immersing us in the holiday, while the previous one, it was more of a plot device. I love seeing the characters dressed up, and the ending actually did surprise me. And finally, the Cutie Map. The best season premiere this show has ever had, and also one of the most disturbing. Seriously, those smiles still freak me out. That's it for honorable mentions, so let's go on to... Number 1. Slice of Life. Yeah, I know it's a bit obvious, and I know some people are going to complain for me having this at number 1, but it's my list, and I don't care. Slice of Life may not have the emotion of Amending Fences, the deep time travel plot of Cutie Mark, or the game changer that Crusaders of the Lost Mark was, but it was an incredible amount of fun. It's just a fun episode to watch. Every character is funny and instantly likable. It has plenty of imagination, the music is amazing, and the animation is superb. It also manages to be an episode that has blatant fan service, but also it kind of mocks it. It has fun with all the characters and backstories the fans have made up over the years. And while I've heard some complain that it doesn't have a plot, I have to respectively disagree. Everything is tied together by Cranky and Matilda's wedding. Every single character's story is somehow tied into that, and that is why the episode works so well. Without it, it would have been a mess. A fun mess, but a mess nonetheless. Also, the editing is really, really good. They don't spend too long on one certain set of characters, and the way they transition between them is really great. This may not be the most deep episode or the most emotional, but it is certainly the most fun I had watching an episode in Season 5.
Something like that might work.
So I hope you enjoyed the list, and with Gravity Falls ending soon, you can expect to see a best Season 2 episodes list sometime in early 2016. So have a happy holiday season, and I will see you all next time.